We're glad you're here.
We're glad you're here.
We're glad you're here.
We're glad you're here.
Hey, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Maybe Monday.
Maybe Monday.
Whatever day.
Whatever day.
Hey, we're glad you're here.
We're glad you're here.
Hey, we're glad you're here. 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 And we're live. We're live. Hey, hey, we're live. Hey, we're live. Hey, hey, we're live. Hey, text somebody and press the share. Hey, we're live. Text somebody and press the share. Hey, we're live. Text somebody and press the share. Hey, we're live. We're live. We're live. Hey, hey, we're live.
We are live. Welcome to God's Got Jokes TV. We're your hosts. I'm Jamal.
And I'm Portia.
And make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's live. On all the social medias. On YouTube, make sure you press the subscribe button. Press that like. On Facebook, make sure you press that like and press that share. Tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. And as I said, follow us on Instagram at God's Got Jokes TV. Or you can follow us personally, individually, at Jamal Rich Comedy.
And I'm at Portionality.
And today we have a really special show for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of hinted at this every week for like the last couple of weeks. But we're talking about today the importance of your mental health and the importance of therapy, especially for people of color.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Portia, what do you guys say about therapy and mental health?
Yeah, so we had talked about this show that was upcoming. We kind of talked about it and hinted at it in the past episodes because there's something to be said about being Black and discussing the topic of mental health. Talking about mental health has been written as a stigma within the African American / Black community. And we just thought it was really important as two Black people who are actively engaging, actively going to therapy individually. And, you know, maybe even one day collectively, you know, we go to therapy. We both have therapists. And we just thought it'd be a great idea to have a show to talk about the importance of mental health and the importance of taking care of your mental health.
Yes.
And allowing this to be a conversation that we would have on the show. And so I know I'll speak for myself. I've been going to therapy. Most recently, I've been going to therapy over the last month. I have a new therapist who I really, really think is dope. This is not my first time in therapy. I have been in therapy since I was in high school. Now, mind you, I have not been in therapy all for the same things. Okay, I am someone who deeply advocates for therapy because I grew up in a church that advocated for therapy. My pastor growing up always says you should have God and a therapist, right? You know, like breaking the stigma of, oh, we need to just pray things away.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, actually, it's like medicine is okay, right? Sometimes you need the miracle and the healing through medicine, right? And going and being an active participant in engaging your mental health. And so for me, I've been going to therapy, like I said, since I was like a teenager in high school. And like I said, not all for the same thing. There were different reasons, different seasons, different reasons and purposes, different things I needed to work through. And I've never felt ashamed to say, I am a Black woman who goes to therapy. And I've had multiple therapists throughout my life. When I was in college, I had a therapist. When I was in grad school at Yale, I had a therapist. When I was finally working on my own and, you know, moved out of the house as a, you know, working adult, you know, and had my first job, I had a therapist then. And, you know, when I moved here, now that I live here in New Jersey, I didn't have a therapist right away, you know, just for different reasons. And you don't need to be in therapy every single day of your life, right? I went to, unless that's what you need, right? I'm just saying, if that's what you need, yes, have therapy every single day. If that is what you require. But I'm saying, like, for me, I was in a season where I didn't necessarily need to be in therapy, but I needed to use the tools that I gained in therapy so that I could, you know, work through life. And so, like I said, now more recently, because of COVID, transitions, you know, I came up and realized there was some things I needed to work on, some things that I kind of really wanted to talk through with someone else in safe space. And just, you know, just to be able to get it out. Like, I love therapy just because you could just get it out, right? You could just get it out. You could just be in a safe place to where you can just release some things. And so I said, you know what? I need to try that. So, yeah. yeah, so that's where I am right now with therapy. How about you, Jamal?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a stigma, especially in the Black community, around therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and that says like if you go to therapy, you're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not crazy at all. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I know for me personally, I decided to go to therapy for the first time this year, a couple of months ago, uh, just because, just because I knew that there was something that I couldn't pray away, and there was something that I couldn't uh, work on myself and get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't run away from it. I couldn't joke my way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to get the help, the professional help, so that I could, instead of being a burden and talking your ears off and my friends' ears off, and then you guys aren't necessarily qualified to give me that type of assistance. So, and it's not always people who going to therapy doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you're this heartbroken person. That those are some of the stigmas that surround therapy. A lot of people think that therapy is for people who have gone through some extreme hardships, which yes, it is there for that. But sometimes it's simply there for you to talk your stuff out, and to talk your way through to self discovery, and to be aware of these things that you're going through that you may not be aware that you're going through in the forefront of your brain. Sometimes a lot of this stuff is subconscious and it comes out through talking, and you're not always comfortable speaking with your friends or maybe even your spouse about these things because you're worried about what they're going to think about you, the judgment, or sometimes you just don't want people to worry about you. And therapy is a very safe space to get these things out, to say what you need to say, at the very least, to get it off your chest so that you're not carrying it with you for the rest of your life, and to get the weight off of your shoulders. So, yeah, and you make these self-discoveries so that you can be better and you can be aware. Like sometimes things trigger you and you don't even know how they trigger you. And going to therapy and talking these things out and having a professional give you that professional feedback to get you on that journey to being mentally healthy, and being aware of those triggers, whether it be a trigger for your anger or a trigger for your anxiety or whatever. Like PTSD is real, not just for people who go away in the military, but you can be. See, PTSD could be as simple as, I went to school, I had a really bad grade, so now whenever I fail something, I feel it really hard. Very simple, seems dramatic, but it's real.
Yeah, like I have PTSD, living in the hood. People are like, oh my gosh, how does kids who live in urban neighborhoods have PTSD? Well, how about this? If I am at a birthday party and I hear a balloon, pop, that is triggering for me because it also can remind me sometimes of the sounds of gunshots, right?
Right.
I've heard gunshots in my neighborhood. And so to hear, a balloon pop or to hear something or fireworks, it makes you say, oh my gosh, do I need to hit the ground? Because you just never know, right? And so that is something that is triggering for me and makes me very anxious. Just those sounds, things that sound like gunshots actually makes me very nervous. And so, yeah, because you just never know. Crowds, raise my anxiety, being in crowds, because just certain things, PTSD very much is very so much real. I don't know how I'm trying to say that. It's very real. PTSD is very real. And so, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, PTSD is real. And you spoke of something else that's very, I've noticed you talking to other people that is very prevalent and we don't talk about it enough. Anxiety. Mm-hmm. A lot of people go through anxiety. Anxiety is very different types of anxiety. Like I know I have social anxiety, which might seem weird to some people because I'm a comedian. I get up in front of people, but talking to people one-on-one scares the living crap out of me. So in one-to-one conversations, I tense up and I get very quiet. So even exploring where the origins of that was, like why do I get tense, or how to overcome, getting these exercises and these tools to overcome that anxiety. Very important. You only get that in therapy. Your friends, you might tell your friends might just hit you with a wow, that's crazy, and then just be like, it'd be like that sometimes. And you'd be like, yo, you're right, you do be like that sometimes. But then you walk away and you're like, wait, I don't know how to deal with this situation any better than when I came into this conversation. But in therapy, they teach you how to deal with that stuff, and they give you the tools to break out of those habits, or not to break out of it, but you never stop living with anxiety, but you learn to be courageous enough to overcome it in day-to-day situations. So that's something I've learned in therapy, or even learning how your relationship with your family and how you were raised. Like, you love your family. They don't ever stop being your family, but there were some things that happened in your childhood, not traumatic things at all, just simple things that could have happened in your childhood that affect you in your adulthood. And you didn't know it until you became an adult and trying adulting, and you realize, why am I having trouble doing this thing? And it's like, because your mom did everything for you. You know, it's like if you were like me, you were a quiet kid. When you went to the doctor as a kid and the doctor asked you, like, hey, what's wrong? And I looked at my mom, and my mom told him what was wrong. So now, as an adult, when someone asks me what's wrong, I don't always speak up, because I had someone to speak on my behalf and advocate for me. And it's a small thing. You don't think it's that big of a deal when you're a kid, but now you're an adult, and you have trouble. You struggle with advocating for yourself because you always had somebody to do that for you. So therapy helps you talk those things out and discover those things, and eventually, if you have a good therapist, hopefully you have a good one, have a track plan, a plan of exercises to help you overcome that and get you back on track to where you need to be.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned, Jamal, that I heard you say in your speaking, you were saying, like, that sometimes people want to go to therapy because, like, they may feel like they don't want to feel like they're being a burden, to anybody else. Right. And I also just kind of want to say, like, any and everyone, like, I don't ever want anyone to feel like they're ever a burden. Right. My prayer is that everyone doesn't feel like they're a burden, and we should not, as human beings, feel like we're burdening anyone. That is also to say that we should go to therapy because we know that it's not someone else's responsibility for our healing, right? It is not the responsibility of our loved ones to help us to help us heal, right? We are responsible for our own healing. While other people can aid in the process, like, if someone offended you, getting an apology from them, or, if people gaslighted you and you just trying to figure out how to navigate those relationships.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we are responsible when we're adults, right? We are responsible for getting that healing. Children is another story. But as adults, right, specifically adults, we are responsible for our healing, and we are responsible for trying to get the help that we need. And we should also have community around us of people and loved ones who hold us accountable, right? We should have people in our lives who will hold us accountable to getting the help that we need. While they're not responsible for getting us the help we need, they should keep us accountable to ourselves, right? Holding us accountable to getting the help we need. I realize just how important it is to have a community of people who will challenge us to say, hey, are you talking to someone? Are you seeing somebody about this? And right, and not as like and not as a dig or a shame. I don't like it when people use therapy as a way of shaming a person, right? It's not about being shamed. Therapy should empower us. Therapy should help a person heal, to feel more whole within themselves, right? Like, I don't like when people use therapy as a way to try to manipulate somebody else, right? Oh, have you taken your meds today? Oh, have you seen your therapist today, right? Those are forms of manipulation. Right. We don't need that kind of energy. We need to be around people who will hold us accountable, but not talk down to us. We shouldn't be talking down to one another, when it comes to, like, our healing. But like I said, we are responsible to go get our healing. Now, there are different, like, stages and levels of mental health. And so we're just specifically talking about, like, cognitive behavioral health. Specifically, we're not necessarily going so deep to say, like paranoid schizophrenia or like bipolar disease, like, because we're not medical professionals to talk about like these kinds of levels, right? Or we don't have that. So this is not to say we're going to talk about being bipolar or having like schizophrenia or like medication. Like we're not talking about, different psychiatric types of help. We're talking about just everyday Black folk living, right? And everyday Black folk living, because we have so much trauma as a people, right? We have so much deep rooted trauma already as people of the African diaspora, and we should take it upon ourselves to go get the help we need. And there's so many of us walking around so wounded where we don't even realize that our wounds, people encounter our wounds before they ever really encounter who we are as people, as individuals, right? And my prayer is that people would get to know us better as individuals, because they don't see our wounds and our hurt as the poster or the billboard for who we are. And so, yeah, we say that to say that therapy is a tool that aids and helps us become most whole. Just like you need a faith community, you need a therapy community of people who will help you in your journey. And so that's just to say, don't hold it in, because the more that we hold in, pain, the more we hold in anger, it's actually literally it's deteriorating our bodies. To not go to therapy, to not talk, to not process things is deteriorating, to our bodies. So it's important to kind of really talk things out so that we can live long lives, right? So we can live long, healthy lives. So my question to you, Jamal, is what is one of your favorite things about therapy?
Oh, one of my favorite things is it's the self-discovery. I know I keep saying that, but that's why it's my favorite thing. It's the things you learn about yourself as you let things go, and the things that you discover about yourself. Like I'll give you an example. So when I first started going to therapy, because my family had moved away. My brother moved to Arizona. My mom moved with family in Michigan. So we had been together my entire life. So one of the things I had to discover was, who am I without living with my mom and my brother? So, and now, especially now that I'm married to you, it was like, who I owe it to myself to figure out who am I without living with them. And over the last couple of months, we've talked it out. We've done some visualization exercises. We've done some anxiety reinforcement exercises. So, and through that, I discovered that I am my own person who has his own strengths, and I'm not dependent. Those strengths are not dependent on any other person, not even you. And discovering that is actually very empowering. And it's what led me to be on this path of like it's what led me to even start my Zoom comedy show. Because something I thought about all quarantine, but I was too scared to do it. And reinforcing my own strengths and knowing that I can depend on myself and I'm capable of doing so many things. It was like, why not? Just do it. What are you scared of? It's like, and calling out the anxiety. And one thing me and my therapist talk about a lot is not listening to your anxiety, but rather calling out the anxiety and then speaking to it. Because the anxiety is going to give you some false logic. So you have to name the thing that's causing your anxiety, and then really ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen in this scenario? And then suddenly it seems very silly. And then it's like, well, why aren't I doing it? And boom, you take the action, because it's like, well, I have no excuse now because I done processed it and called it out. But I wouldn't have had those tools to do that and discover that about myself had I not gone to therapy and worked it out and processed it. So, yeah, that's my favorite thing. What's yours?
What I love about therapy for me is I actually like to be told about myself. I really appreciate being told about myself. Because I'm also a type of person, I don't mind telling people about themselves, right? That's just me. But I really like when a therapist offers a nugget for me to think about, or a piece for me to just think about, or for a self-assessment. I like self-assessment. I like, my favorite part of therapy is being challenged. I like my new therapist gives me worksheets that I'm like, this is cool. And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Worksheets are clutch.
I like the worksheets. I think they're great. I think they're helpful because it gives me an opportunity to actually do work. You know, I like how therapy is just, you know, it gives me the space to be vulnerable and not feel ashamed. I like how therapy gives me space to be myself, you know, my whole self.
Yeah.
I like that. And I will also want to say, you know, it feels sometimes in the way that this country is, I really wish that therapy was made available to everyone. I wish that was just a universal, basic human need that everyone would have access to mental health care. I think we should just have access to healthcare in general, right? I think there should be universal healthcare. And I also really do believe that is a basic human right, should be access to mental health needs, because mental health needs can be so expensive. You know, insurance doesn't always cover mental health or behavioral health in the ways that I think that it should be and should be available. Sometimes therapy can be really expensive. There are apps, but, you know, sometimes everyone, you know, doesn't really like the apps. I'm trying out an app for the first time. Well, actually not the first time, it's the second time. I tried out Talkspace one time and I didn't like it for me, but now I'm using BetterHelp and I like BetterHelp personally. You know, now we're in, you know, COVID time. So, you know, maybe going to seeing someone one-on-one on their couch may not be something, you know, in office, but, you know, you can do a Zoom and virtual conversations. And I think that's, you know, still useful.
Yeah.
So, my prayer is that everyone would be able to have access to healthcare that allows them to get mental health, you know, services. I pray that everyone can have access to mental health services. That is not a luxury, right? That this is a basic human, you know, accessible. You know, it's accessible to every human. Yeah. That is my prayer. So yeah, that's kind of really what I wanted to say. That's all I had to say. Yeah. You know, I know this was a really, really great, passionate topic for you. So yeah.
And I want to say one last thing. So you spoke about faith and prayer, and I just want to say, like, I think personally, I just want to say that I feel like your faith and mental health and taking care of your mental health go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Like for me personally, getting prayer helps me to strengthen those tools I gain from therapy, and helps me to hold myself accountable. And like you said earlier, like sometimes people say pray your pain away, but you know, sometimes it's hard to let go of the pain because the pain is all you know. So if that's all you know, what's your identity without the pain?
Well,
and self-discovery is what therapy is all about. And therapy helps you let it go, and therapy helps you give it to God, and then we pray to rediscover yourself.
And also too, not just with that, right? In addition to that, you know, therapy also just helps you, you know, maintain. Yeah. You know, it just helps you to maintain. And, you know, if you live with, you know, anxiety, you know, like we do, therapy just really helps you to manage. It's not that the anxiety just goes away, but it helps you to have a better quality of life. Yeah. You know, and so we just want people to have a better quality of life.
It's my prayer that therapy gets so normalized that people don't even have to wait till they get anxiety to go to therapy. It's just something you do on a regular basis just because you need to talk.
Yep.
And you get it out your system before you even develop these things.
Yep. And now, like this time of year, you know, seasonal depression is real. So, you know, if you're going through seasonal depression, know that you are in our thoughts and prayers. Because, you know, we get it. You know, it's a difficult season sometimes. You know, the holidays are rolling around. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that season. And a lot of people, you know, struggle with depression around this time of year. And so, you know, we really want to just come here and just really bring this conversation, you know, to the forefront. And yeah, that's what we have for y'all today.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Yeah. And so if you would, you know, continue to follow us over at Guys Got Jokes TV on Instagram. If you're following us for the first time here on YouTube, we would ask that you just, if you enjoy this, hit that subscribe, share it with somebody. If you're on Facebook, hey, tag somebody, press a share. We're just so grateful that you've been rocking with us, and we can't wait, and we are so excited to see y'all again next week, where we have another great episode for you all. We are really, really excited. We love you all. We wish you all the best today. Peace and blessings.